It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the two movies of April 29th, 2005. This is, of course, the weekend before the summer movie season kicks off, and one of these movies was actually supposed to come out a week after this, but they changed it because of something big that was coming up in May that we'll eventually get to. But let's take a look at these two movies. We have a movie based off of one of the most beloved science fiction properties of all time, and we also have a Vin Diesel-less XXX sequel. So does that mean it's going to be better than the first film? Not really, but we'll get to that one in just a little bit. But let's get to the first movie we have here, and that is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Everyone has bad mornings. You wake up late, you stub your toe, you burn your toast, but for a man named Arthur Dent, played by Martin Freeman, this goes far beyond a bad day when he learns that a friend of his, played by Mos Def, is actually an alien with advanced knowledge of Earth's impending destruction. He's transported off the Earth seconds before it's blown up to make way for a new hyperspace motorway, and if that's not enough, thrown in by being wanted by the police, Earth 2, an insane electronic encyclopedia, no tea whatsoever, a chronically depressed robot played by Alan Rickman, and a search for the meaning of life, and you got the greatest adventure off Earth. And this movie was not well received when it came out. It didn't do bad with the critics in general. Critics overall were mixed on it. The film, however, wasn't a big hit. Even though it did make it back its budget of $50 million, I think people were expecting a lot more from it in terms of what this book is for a lot of people. I never read the books before, so I don't know anything. I only went into this just from the trailers alone, and, to be perfectly honest with you, I actually really love the hell out of this movie. I mean, the moment the movie begins, we get this little gem of an opening right here, and once this happened, I knew we were in for a real treat. I mean, what more do you have to say about that opening? It's an opening where you have these dolphins sing "So long and thanks for all the fish" as they know that the world is about to explode, and they leave Earth before anything else happens in the movie, and just with a great song in there, well, what can you say, man? That's just a perfect way to set yourself up for this incredible opening to this movie, and the movie itself really is fun. You can tell they put a lot of time and effort into this. There is CG in here, but you feel like there's a lot more practical effects in this movie than a movie like of this caliber would have. You got a great cast to work off of. Martin Freeman is pretty good. Sam Rockwell, Mos Def, Zooey Deschanel, Bill Nighy, Alan Rickman playing the voice of the robot. I can't remember his name now. Marvin the robot. And you got Warwick Davis, Bill Nighy, Helen Mirren, John Malkovich, Stephen Fry. Tom Lennon from Reno 911 is in here. Just a really good cast in general, and just like I said, you could tell that they put a lot of time and effort into this, because yeah, it looks like there's a lot of CG in here, but there's also a lot of practical effects, it looks like, and ways that they kind of move around it to make it look like the CG effects look more practical, and it's very well done. This is a highly ambitious movie that I think is a ton of fun on a number of different levels. It has a lot of very funny moments, too. This is directed by Garth Jennings, who would later go on to become known as the director of the Sing movies, which are kind of underrated, honestly. Those are those movies that you didn't really think you're going to get a whole lot from because they're made by the same people that did Despicable Me, but they're actually kind of good. Like, the first one I thought was one of those big surprises that really came out of nowhere. The second one, also pretty good, too. I thought the second one was also kind of fun. And a lot of the great stuff that this director can do is in this movie. It's very fun stuff that he's able to work with here. The atmosphere, the comedy, the casting, the ways that they do stuff here. Like, things will just happen for the sake of just out of nowhere. Like, there's one scene in particular I'll always remember when, just out of nowhere, a giant sperm whale falls from the earth, and he's thinking about how he's contemplating the life and how he's going to die, and it's just like, it's a perfectly silly, over-the-top scene that you buy into it because you're just sucked into this world that they're bringing you into. Some people say it's not quite the source material that they had in mind, but honestly, as somebody like me who didn't really go into this knowing too much about the books in general, I think this is a ton of fun. I think this is a film that is very much underrated and definitely deserves a reconciliation over time itself. I mean, this is the movie that probably should be getting more respect as the years go on. I don't know if it quite has that in general, but I thought it was a ton of fun. It's a movie I really loved. I liked it back then. I really love it now. It's a fun movie. I can't recommend this one enough. If you go into it with the right mindset, you can have a hell of a time with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Easily. Hands down. I do recommend this movie a lot. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is Ice Cube and XXX State of the Union. So how do you celebrate dismantling whatever was left of James Bond Would Die Another Day in 2002? Steal the director for your sequel without and don't get Vin Diesel back or anything. In fact, they were initially, him and Rob Cohen were originally intended to be back for the sequel, but they both dropped out due to scripting issues, and yeah. And I can pretty much tell you why this movie didn't work right from the get-go, but let's go ahead and get into the plot itself. So in this movie, Samuel L. Jackson's agent Augustus Gibbons has selected an imprisoned former U.S. Navy SEAL Darius Stone, played by Ice Cube, as a new agent into the XXX program and has him travel to Washington, D.C., where they track a splinter faction of the U.S. military that attempts to overthrow the U.S. government and assassinate the president. Led by Secretary of Defense and former four-star General George Deckard, played by Willem Dafoe, Stone's former commanding officer, whom he once led a mutiny against, but he's targeted for assassination by a radical splinter group of dissenters deep within the United States government. The new XXX must uncover the insurgents from within. It is the nation's only hope to stop the first coup d'etat in American history. Certainly will never happen in real life. I mean, nothing like this would happen about 16 years later, after a president refused to accept the election results and basically caused a coup on January 6th of 2021. No, clearly will never happen in real life. Absolutely, never in a million years. But I digress. You could pretty much tell what's wrong with this movie right from the get-go. The original XXX was supposed to be the hip, stylish, cool, in-your-face James Bond movie, like a younger James Bond. But does any of this feel like a XXX movie to you? Because it certainly did not for me. Like, when I looked at this movie, and I look back on it nowadays, it feels like a film that was probably rewritten as something else entirely, an original concept, but they needed to do something similar to they needed to do like what they did with Die Hard 2 and just take a script that they had been working on for several years and rewrite it to make it a sequel to something else entirely. And yeah, unlike Die Hard 2 though, which is fun on its own on a number of different levels, this movie does not work by any means necessary, and it's just, you could see why from the get-go. Like, the plot makes no sense whatsoever. The casting overall, I mean, I like Ice Cube a lot. I was really looking forward to seeing it just because of Ice Cube being in it. But, man, what a blown opportunity this was. Because Ice Cube is trying his hardest to save the movie, man. He's the one thing in this movie that I did genuinely enjoy. But at the same time, like I said, there's not really, he's given a whole lot to do because the story in general isn't really that strong overall. And it's just a film that is very convoluted. It's trying to be like this smart, savvy political thriller, but it's just like, that's not what we got. That's not what made the first XXX movie a success. I mean, this movie completely goes against everything that the first XXX movie was supposed to be about. It just feels like it's a stale movie that just feels like a completely different project in general. And it doesn't help that you don't like anybody in this movie. You don't like Willem Dafoe because you know he's working for the bad guy. You know he's the bad guy, and there's characters in here that kind of work against the bad guys and work with the bad guys in general, but everyone's too stupid to figure that out. And then when they finally reveal it, it's just kind of like, yeah, this is too stupid for its own goddamn good. Like, this is a terrible movie. This is a really, really bad movie. But then again, that's exactly what you get when you get a script by Simon Kinberg. The brilliant genius behind such classic masterpieces like The 355, Dark Phoenix, X-Men Apocalypse, Fantastic Four, Fan-4-Stick 2015, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, This Means War. Sure, This Means War. Yeah. If that didn't give you an early sign right away that this was not going to work out out for you, then more power to you. You have more of a tendency to be more optimistic than I was, because we should have known right from the beginning this was a disaster in the making. And yeah, this is a bad movie, man. I feel bad for Ice Cube because it's not his fault the movie is bad. He's not really given anything to do, really, and the film just kind of falls apart right from the get-go because you have no idea what the hell is going on. And, like, again, it doesn't feel like anything you would see from a XXX movie. Like, this feels like a completely different film altogether. This feels like a completely different series of films altogether, and it just didn't work. It's a mess of a film, a sloppy film, a bad film, waste of talent all around. Just not a good movie, man. Avoid this one like the plague. This is a terrible film. I hated this film a lot. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Then the next time we meet, we'll jump into May of 2005, the kickoff of the summer movie season with 4 movies, including Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven with Orlando Bloom, the remake of the horror classic House of Wax with most notably Paris Hilton among the cast, the winner of the Best Picture, Paul Haggis's Crash, and also Jiminy Glick in La La Wood. So 4 movies in general we'll take a look at. We'll take a look at those movies all in the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.